Hello. So, we're gonna be restoring this. This is my first ever guitar. It is an Ibanez RG2EX1. I got it way back in 2011. I have since lost all the original parts. And much like the depression I've been ignoring for a number of years, it's beckoning to be fixed. So recently I've been going through a resurgence in writing and playing guitar. And while I already have a few guitars at the ready, creatively I've been yearning for something radically different. So for this project, I'm going for F-sharp standard. An 8-string without the 8-string. The tuning's so low only whales can hear it. So low it'll leave a skid mark on every gym mat in America. A tuning so disgustingly low, filthy, ethically and morally bankrupt, will be elected to Congress soon. Am I doing too much? So we're gonna fix the neck, put a nice pickup in it, put some crazy strings on it, and along the way we'll learn some cool stuff about guitars, scale lengths, down tuning, and string gauges.
You might even fight a too. Bitch.
I have all new parts ready to go. Let's do it.
Is it lonely where you are? In there, dead. Does the darkness know your name? Does mine? What's it like? Can you feel? She said her blood turns to ash. Laughing, Dad, do you know what you've done this time to me? Burning eyes, can't forgive you.
Say it. Say it.
I'm ugly.
You're ugly and what?
I'm ugly and I'm proud.
Good!
Now I can test if I install these correctly. These should be good to go. I'm shocking myself to death in a moment. It's on for sure. Oh. Hear that? Oh. I'm not getting shocked. Oh, great to go.
And now, poetry by Gary.
That one's really hard.
3 days later.
So the restored guitar is actually playing pretty well. However, one major problem that I'm coming across is that I vastly underestimated the type of gauges I would actually need. So with the current gauges I went with, the main issue here is that they're just too light. They feel really springy and are not holding tuning very well. And now running my current gauges through a strength tension calculator, it makes sense. It's too light. It's too light. Which again, in hindsight, makes total sense. I am running a 25.5 inch scale length here, not a 27 and 30 inch baritone, so makes sense. Anyways, let's get to it. Wait a minute. Okay, baritone, scale length, string gauges.
Check this out, though. First of all, you're throwing too many big words at me.
Okay, so this is actually very interesting. Okay, so explaining scale lengths, string gauges, and their musical relationships really, really quickly. Every guitar has a scale length. The scale length of a guitar is a distance between its bridge and its nut. On this guitar, for example, measuring from its bridge to its nut, its scale length is 25.5 inches. pretty standard for these type of guitars, though plenty of different scale lengths exist. For guitars, you can get as little as 22 inches or even up to 28 inches or higher. My 9-string, for example, has a scale length of 30 inches. It's a very long boy. Anyways, for guitars, typically anything above 26 to 26 and a half is considered a baritone, or baritone scale length, or a baritone guitar. These kind of guitars are specifically useful for downtuning. Wipe that greasy fucking forehead. God, why am I like a fucking egg?
I should scramble you with onions!
These kind of guitars are very specifically useful for downtuning. That is, tuning your guitar lower than standard tuning, or even typical downtuning. Because the strings in these guitars have an extra inch or more of playable surface, this translates to more tension. And as you tune lower and lower and lower, you want more tension. The lower you tune, more tension is needed to keep strings in playable shape. Going out of tune, notes going unintentionally sharp when you pick them, strings feeling weird.
Stop being weird, nigga!
I'm not, I'm trying.
Downtuning is just problematic. And floppy. Very floppy. Baritones generally solve this problem. But say you don't have a baritone, or perhaps you're hard to come by. Or what if you're broken, just can't? What must one do to sound like a dying elephant? This is where a string gauge comes in. Now, the gauge of a string refers to its thickness. So, this is an 18, this is a 74. So, thicker or heavier gauge strings can solve issues with downtuning by providing more tension to a string's relative thickness. You have a 48 that feels floppy, up it to a 52, for example.
I never thought of it like that.
Now, generally speaking, even with longer scale lengths, the lower you tune, the higher you up your string gauges. Or is it lower your gauges?
Huh?
Upper gauges? Up gauges? Up your gauges? Lower your gauges? Why is music so confusing? Just go thicker. Go thicker. Now, this is not an exhaustive breakdown of all the ways that scale lengths, string gauges, and downtuning kind of interacts with each other. This is just a basic primer. Not that most of that stuff matters anyways. What's most important is how things feel to you, how it inspires you, and how it can facilitate all your creative ideas. What's important is how these and these feel. I'm sure that's in the Bible somewhere. So there you go. You are now a guitar nerd. I'm very sorry about that, but you can't take it back now.
I'm so fucking tired of this shit. Fuck this shit!
Okay.
They may not have audio. Check the feed.
It's good, Jack.
Come on. Talk, Bruce, damn it.
If it isn't already clear, I'm going to be changing these strings to thicker ones. I got my stack of strings here. I'm going to be mixing and matching a couple of them. But, making a mess. Everything's falling. But, before I do that, there's an issue with this guitar. The problem, and it's actually a pretty simple fix, is these 4 neck screws. The problem is that this one is just kind of floating in there. It's stripped, the whole is stripped. So I'm gonna have to repair that with just some simple toothpicks and some glue. This is a type of wood glue. It works well on wood. So this stuff should work pretty well. Pretty basic fix for the most part. I'm gonna be drilling this hole a little wider and filling it with a couple of toothpicks. And along with those toothpicks, glue will be used. Originally, I had planned to use fancier kind of wood filler specifically for this kind of application, but because Amazon decided that next day shipping is actually 3-day shipping, that's not happening. This is fine instead. It's a lot more cost effective anyways, and it should work out great.
Jack. Jack. There's a bomb, Jack.
I'm the king of the world!
I'm a stomp too.
Okay, so that actually came out much better than I expected. The toothpicks fill the holes really, really well. The glue is currently working its magic as we speak. Now, I was worried it wouldn't work, but I'm surprised it actually worked really well. Now, this still needs a couple of hours to cure. When it's ready, I'm going to be sanding it down and then re-drilling that hole. But for now, I'm pretty much going to be leaving it overnight, so I'll see you guys tomorrow. Good night. Great, so it's now the next day. This thing's pretty much ready to go, but actually, before we get to that, let's address this. So this empty pickup cavity is a little unsightly in my opinion, so I'm going to be covering it up with a pickup. This pickup won't be hooked up to anything. This is primarily just for aesthetic purposes. And there you go. That looks much nicer. Okay, so if you don't know much about guitars, you've probably been wondering what's the deal with this stuff. So these are empty slots where a pickup selector and a volume knob are supposed to go into. Because this guitar originally came with 2 pickups wired, the pickup selector would have allowed you to choose between either pickup or a combination of both. Because of the design and sound philosophy I'm going for with this guitar, with just a single pickup, the pickup selector is not needed. Essentially what I want this guitar to be is a raw rhythm machine. Now this pickup came with a tone knob, but I got rid of it. The added benefit of that is that it also allowed me to move the volume knob here away from everything. Neighbor just started blasting music. This is great. Which a volume knob further away from my picking hand is something that I kind of always wanted. On pretty much most guitars, the volume knob would be here and the tone knob here. But every now and then when I would get into more aggressive playing, I would notice that my pinky would just contact that volume knob. Kind of disruptive. So this is a positive change. And last but not least, so this is the electronics cavity. It's where the wiring and volume potentiometer sits. If I had a tone and pickup selector, it would go in here too. This is usually covered with something like this. It's a piece of plastic with some electronic shielding in the back. Also, if you're like a sweaty, gross player like me, it can help with not corroding your electronic parts. And we'll eventually make a new cover out of this one, but I don't have the tools for it at the moment. This is fine for now. It will do. So let's get to that neck. Great, that worked out well. Let's put it all together. Put it all together. There. Now, I think one mistake I made before is that I used my drill to drive these in, which I think is a bit of a no-no. A little too much power. Even on the lowest torque setting, I think it was too much power. Anyways, I'm going to put these just gonna dry. Sorry, I know you can't see right now. Just 1 second. We'll split it. Don't want to over tighten these, so the impulse is there. Yeah. Great. All fixed. Time to finally restring. Time to finally restring. Let's do this. So the new set of strings going into this guitar will be from thickest to thinnest, 80, 60, 48, 34, 24, and 18. These new set of strings will introduce better tension, helping to bring the guitar into better alignment in regards to tuning stability and general floppiness. The strings will feel and play better. Now, admittedly, it's a pretty wild set, and without getting into the weeds on string tension, optimal poundage per string, progressive tension, balance tension, wound, plain, just know that for our purposes here, this will do. Now, finding strings for this type of very low tuning was very challenging. Even large established brands with sets specifically sold for really low tunings wasn't gonna cut it. The 60 gauge alone is actually entirely from a new pack, so add more of these to the pile. Apart from custom ordering strings, I would have to mix and match. And because I had plenty laying around, especially now, this was my best option. Yes, I'm aware the Guitar Center sell loose strings for like $1 each, but I hate those stores, so that's not an option. What I have on hand is gonna work fine. So here it is. Let's see what it sounds like. So what did we learn? What have we learned? Speed kills. No. Spiritually, this project for me was about experimentation and exploration. Guitars have always been really fascinating to me, how people can take blocks of wood and other raw materials and create these beautiful things. Though I will say there's a lot of like what I call guitar mysticism that sort of permeates a lot of the musicianship community. These sort of attitudes and beliefs about guitar ends up with people treating their instruments like something sacrosanct, overly precious, and not treating them like the actual tools of creativity that they are. I've seen someone on a message board years ago asking if going constantly to drop D, from E standard to drop D, would ruin their guitar neck. And another if a set of 11s in E standard would compromise the structural integrity of a guitar. So like, what?
What is so funny?
Dad rockers. Now, I shouldn't really be making too much fun. We've all been there. You know, if you don't know anything about these things, you've never even considered alternate tunings, or wondered what string gauges really mean to a guitar's functionality, all of this would be novel. No such thing as a stupid question. Maybe. But then you also get people who feel this gauge with this tuning on this scaling is the only proper way to achieve the correct results. This has been my way to cut through that. Of course, I'm not doing anything really crazy here. I'm essentially just putting screws into a hole. In any case, I would encourage you, if you're able to experiment with your instrument. Try different tunings, different parts, different pickups, different strings, because even something relatively modest like this project was a lot of fun. And it's fed me creatively more ways than one. And putting an 80 gauge on a conventional guitar, for being honest, it's a type of bass string. It's kind of funny. Like, that in itself amuses me. It gives me the giggles. And that's what really matters in the end, just amusing ourselves. But primarily you get a really cool instrument with a unique personality that you help craft. Thank you for watching. So I've decided that I actually might just take this dummy pickup off. So even though it's not wired to anything, the magnet inside of it is still having some effect on the strings, sort of muddying the sound. Even adjusting the pickup height to be as far away from the strings as possible, I think it's still affecting the tone. I suspect that a criticism for this video that I'll get is the sound quality of the guitar playthroughs. Also, I left out deeper discussions on like string gauge thickness and its effect on tone, whether longer scale lengths are preferable for specific tunings, etc., etc. This whole project, first and foremost, was about doing things that inspire and subsidize. What am I, a farmer? Things that can inspire and supplement your creativity. Supplement? Is that correct? Doing things that can inspire and explore your creativity. Whoa, it is hot in this room. My goodness. I got your Korean glass skin right here. So things like sound quality and information density were secondary priorities. Yeah, that's my excuse. Also, and this should be obvious, I wanted this video to be as entertaining and as accessible to people who are not into this kind of stuff. Hopefully, if you found any of this interesting, it is fucking hot in here, goddamn. Hopefully, if you found any of this stuff interesting, it'll inspire you to start exploring on your own. Now, if you've gotten this far, I can talk about some specifics I didn't include in the video. This is an EMG H4. EMG is a company that's primarily known for their active pickups. Actives require a battery, but as you can see, no battery. That's because these are one of the few passive pickups that EMG makes. So no battery needed, baby. Promise I'm not trying to flex on camera. The smooth, dulcet tones of analog. Apart from this pickup, the replacement components are actually just cheap parts I found on Amazon. These pickup rings and this volume knob I actually took from another guitar I have. I suspect I can probably improve the sound further by putting in higher quality parts, which, sure. Originally I wanted this guitar to look like, what's his name? I know his nickname is Penny. I don't believe that's his real name. Penny from the band Sixth. I should just Google his fucking name. Graham Penny. Or is it Graham? I originally wanted this guitar to look like his Black Machine. And I found all the parts online that he used in that guitar. And it was really expensive. And I wasn't sure how good this guitar would have turned out. But knowing now how good it actually turned out, I might pull that trigger. Anyways, that's it. Enjoy the rest of your day.